on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Burke's Beat. Danny Burke, your host. Happy to be with you on this. Well, technically for me, it's Tuesday night, but by the time you're listening to this, probably Wednesday morning and or afternoon, we have an awesome show lined up for you. Brady Kannon, friend of the program, he's hopped on in the past, not only with Burke's Beat, but plenty of the shows I've done in the past, I guess, 3 or 4 years, covering all different types of sports. Here on Burke's Beat, when he joined us in the fall, it was to talk NFL, and he's one of the sharpest minds when it comes to handicapping football. But Brady is also a spectacular handicapper when it comes to the links. The go-to man if I'm looking to bet golf. I'm looking on his Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer, checking out his articles that he's dishing out and following his plays. So we have him on this show to help preview the Masters at Augusta National Golf Club. Awesome interview with Brady. Not only do we get his best bets, but we look outside of that. We look at some other areas that you may not consider when it comes to betting golf in general or betting, again, at the Masters. So, yes, very gracious to have Brady on the program. He's incredibly busy this week, so thankful for him. Shout out. And also, again, on Twitter, give him a follow at Las Vegas Golfer. Before we get to that, I did want to tell you about something, though, folks. I've recently partnered up with a sports betting app called Rhythm, R-I-T-H-M-M. So what the sports betting app does is it helps assist you as a handicapper and provides you with personalized predictive tools to help your decision making with all of your wagers. So unlike traditional betting platforms, what Rhythm allows is you the opportunity to participate in that analytical approach. Because everybody always talks about wanting to make models and becoming more advanced with how you're looking to make your bets. But again, a lot of us don't have the time to do so, don't care to look up how to do it. That's the beauty of what this app offers. It gives you those tools and resources to assist your development of making all of those models with props, with sides, whatever it may be, helps you make better decisions when placing bets. So again, that's Rhythm, R-I-T-H-M-M, and you can follow them on Twitter at bet_rhythm. And I'll put a link on burksbeat.com where I post this episode, on YouTube, on the Spotify description, on the Apple description. I'll put the link there, and that's my referral code that you can use. You'll get a 7-day free trial, and you can check out all of those resources that I mentioned, and you can see how Rhythm will make you a better handicapper. Check it out at the very least. Again, it's free to sign up, 7-day free trial. Give it a whirl. See how it helps improve your betting on a daily basis. Great content being dished out by the team over at Rhythm. All right, without further ado, let's jump into our Masters interview with Brady Kannon. Okay, now it is time to welcome on our friend Brady Kannon, one of the best golfing handicappers that I have come to know, and obviously a great football capper. We had him on throughout the NFL season, and he did tremendous work, as he always does, and currently still does, over at Sports Grid. You can catch him hosting plenty of sports betting content there, golf specifically at GolfBet and golf.com, at Las Vegas Golfers, where you can follow Brady on the tweets. Brady, it is time to prepare for the 88th edition of the Masters at Augusta. My man, I know this is your Super Bowl. You're busy. I appreciate your time. How are we feeling heading into this tournament?
Well, Danny, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on with you again. I think it's been a little while. This might be a maiden voyage talking golf with you. Of course, we have talked a lot of football over the years, and that's been great. We've had some success. Hopefully we can have some success here on the links as well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the Masters. It doesn't get a whole lot bigger than this, and sports books will tell you that. I didn't know this. I mean, I always knew that the Masters was the most bet tournament throughout the entire year. But I found out from a mutual friend, Jeff Sherman, over at the Westgate Superbook, that not only is the Masters the biggest golf tournament, but it does 10 times the amount of handle than any other major championship in the world of golf. So that's just how big this is. I think it's so recognizable for fans because it's the same course year in and year out. We've been waiting for 9 months for another major championship. So people get eager. Spring is in the air, and the grounds always look so pristine and so gorgeous. And so I think there's a lot of reasons why the Masters is the most bet golf tournament of the season. But, that's beside the point for me. Obviously, we love to bet it, but first and foremost, however many years ago it was, let's see, I'm trying to think here. I was probably about 17, 18 years old when I just fell in love with this as a fan,
Hmm.
watching Jack Nicklaus walk up the 18th fairway with his son on the bag when he won the whole darn thing in 1986.
Man, yeah, so much tradition at Augusta, so many memories. And, the most notable as of late, of course, when Tiger won it back in 2019. And I remember that's the first year I actually met you when I was out in Las Vegas and just seeing the pure jubilation from so many fans and shock from so many people like yourself who cover the sport, who we didn't really expect something like that to be possible given Tiger's circumstances. But that's the beauty of the tournament, I suppose, is that anything is possible, and we'll see what comes to fruition after this weekend. But Brady, before we get into some of your bets, I kind of wanted to ask you a couple outside things because when I converse with you about golf in general and especially at Augusta, I think a lot of people who listen aren't handicappers who are betting golf on a consistent basis. So it's nice to kind of get a little bit of a different perspective of how you approach things and maybe some advice they can use for themselves. So I'll begin with looking at Augusta. Of course, you're going to look at the hot hand and who may be coming in doing very well as of late into the tournament. But outside of maybe the obvious, what are some key handicapping angles people often overlook when it comes to Augusta? Something that isn't talked about as much that probably should be.
Well, that's a good question, and I think it is hard to overlook some of the things when handicapping the Masters because it's the same course that they play year in and year out. It's the only major where they play the same course year after year. So I kind of find myself not only going through a similar handicap year in and year out, but you know, trying to maybe add some new things every year, some new wrinkles. And the course changes a little bit. They do, they've made it longer, for a number of years. Originally, they Tiger proofed it. When Tiger brought it to its knees in 1997, and they had to make it longer, and they've made it longer since then, and they've made it longer this year. It's now 7,550 yards, actually a little better than that. So, it's just a beast of a course, but a lot of the same things hold true for Augusta National. Driving distance. I just mentioned how long the course is. You've got to be pretty darn long here. If you're a shorter hitter, it is very difficult to have success around Augusta National. Strokes gained approach, your iron play. And I think that has changed over the years. It really used to be a bomber's paradise, and you always had to have a magical short game. But I think the iron play has become more of a skill set, prominent skill set, maybe in the last 10 years or so. So, driving distance, strokes gained approach. I mentioned, having a magical short game, strokes gained around the green and scrambling. If you've seen the course on TV, and most people have, you've got those shaved runoff areas and, the collection areas, and the ball will roll off the green, and you're hitting these really tight pitch shots on turf that is so tight. They're you and I trying to hit a shot like that, Danny, is so difficult. And then you're trying to do it onto a green that is faster than any green that they play throughout the year. They're firm. And then you've got a lot of undulation in the green. So the short game is pure wizardry. And then you've got the par fours. Take a look at how guys do on the par fours that measure 450 to 500 yards, and some are even over 500 yards. But that is the length of the majority of the par four holes around here. Par five scoring. That's always been the way to tame Augusta, and how we saw Tiger Woods, dominate it early in his career by playing all of the par fives and under par. So you've got to be good on the par fives. Most of the approach shots are going to come from 200 yards or more. So, how good are you in getting it close to the hole proximity from 200 yards or more? And then I mentioned, these big, treacherous, firm, and fast undulated greens. I think you want to look at avoiding three putt avoidance, and
Mhm.
bogey avoidance. So, those are some of the prominent factors. And when you listen to that back, driving distance, strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green, par fours of 450 to 500 yards, hole proximity from 200 plus, par five scoring, three putt avoidance, scrambling, basically just do everything well, right?
Yeah, maybe a little bit easier said than done, but you're right. I mean, that's what it's going to take, right? So that completely makes sense, Brady. Let me ask you about who's probably one of the top most I mean, well, obviously, I mean, he's the reigning champion here, John Rahm, but I was just going to say in general, making headlines throughout the news because it seems like there's been a tad bit, I could be, underselling it a little bit, but a tad bit of remorse from John Rahm not being involved in the PGA Tour, moving over to live, and it seems like there is some regret in his tone when he discusses it. And I'm looking at only FanDuel, and again, each sports book, the odds are varying all over the place, but they have him listed at 11 to 1 to repeat winning the Masters. Now, that's hard enough as is, but how do you look to approach the betting standpoint of someone like Rom? Maybe not even from the outright perspective, but whether it's in matchups or top 20, something like that. What can we expect his mentality to be like heading into Augusta?
I stayed away from John Rahm, but I know some people that I have great respect for in the golf handicapping space that like Rahm this week. And I can't
Mm,
argue because, just above him on the odds board is Scotty Scheffler, all the way down to like 4 to 1. I mean, the highest you're finding on Scotty Scheffler right now is probably 5 to 1, and a lot of shops are dealing less than four. And I personally think that's too short. I think Scotty
mhm.
Scheffler should be probably 7 to 1 maybe at the highest, and 6 to 1 at the lowest. But what that's done is it's inflated the price a little bit on someone like John Rahm, and the 11 to 1 you're seeing there at FanDuel is even one of the shorter offerings. I've seen
Man.
like plus 1350 or something like that. So Rahm, no matter what tour he's playing on, is still one of the absolute best players in the world. Last year at this time, we were talking about the big three: Rory, Scotty, and Rahm. I believe that's still true. You might even extend it to the big four, and not that he wins all the time, but believe it or not, Xander Schauffele is arguably the a top three player in the world right now, the way he's going. But Rahm, you mentioned maybe some remorse, and I don't know if remorse is the right word. I think it is the right word, but I don't know if he's full blown feeling remorse. I think
Mhm.
he's having some trouble adjusting. What's with playing in shorts and rocking out to loud music, and I really don't think that's his style. Now he's got about 600, tissues he could wipe his 600 million tissues he could wipe his eyes with, but uh, yeah, no, and I miss him. I don't miss a lot of guys on live, but I do miss John Rahm. Um, what's tough about his situation coming into this tournament? We haven't had a defending champ since, guess who? Of course, Tiger Woods. I believe it was 2000 and 2001. And before that, it didn't happen for another number of years before that with Nick Faldo. So the defending champion coming back, winning back to back, is a very rare occurrence. So I think people are kind of fading him because of that. And it's not just because it doesn't happen, but think about what you go through. You just won your first Masters, arguably the biggest golf tournament in the world. And I
Yeah.
saw Rahm earlier today. He said, winning my first major, the US Open, was massive, but he said, winning my first Masters was even bigger. So, that kind of tells you what it means to him. And when he arrived this week, and when he arrives on the first tee on Thursday, he's serving a champions dinner this evening. The media commitments, the distractions, the pressure, everything that goes along with being the defending champ, good and bad, takes away a little bit of trying to win another golf tournament. So, like I say, some people I have a ton of respect for are on John Rahm, and I'm not going to argue with him. But there's my case for why I'm just going to stay away. I'm not going to go against him. He's still John Rahm, but I'm not going to invest in him this week. As far as I is he going to finish top 10? Probably going to finish top 20. Is he going to finish top 10? I think that'd be a really good week for Rahm if he finished top
Mhm.
10. Scotty Scheffler, when the best player in the world, when he was defending his title a couple years ago, in his follow up attempt, I think he finished exactly 10th. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for Rahm.
So you mentioned Scotty Scheffler, and like you said, just a huge short shot here. And I'm looking at Circus Sportsbook. I know you and I both have plenty of friends over there, and I'm sure you make frequent trips to make some of your wagers there in Las Vegas, Brady. But how about the yes at plus 480 being dealt at Circa? But what Circa also offers is the no. So you have the yes and no market on all these golfers. So the yes plus 480 for Scheffler, the no is minus 655. What do you
Wow.
make of the yes no market? And I mean, again, a lot of casual bettors go and think, oh, I don't want to lay that much. But when you think about how hard it is to win this tournament and how big the field is, at some point there's got to be some value on these type of bets, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I haven't scoured that market and looking for where the value is. And most of all, because you have to lay such a big number on a lot of these prices, whether it be the no
Mhm.
or the yes, you've got to lay a lot of wood, as obvious in the case with Scotty Scheffler. You're going to have to shell out $650 just to win 100. So it's hard to make a lot of money unless you've got a lot of money.
Right.
Um, but I think that's a really tough nut to crack with Scotty because first of all, like I mentioned earlier, I think the price is too short on the yes, if you will.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily want to bet against him either. He is the best player in the world, and it would shock me. I saw earlier today I think Scotty Scheffler to finish top 10 was minus 250 and to
Wow.
finish top 20 was like minus 500 or something like that. I mean just astronomical prices basically saying, look, he might not win, but he's going to be close. And I believe that. We've seen him do it time and time again this season. Actually, the only time I bet on him this year was at the Phoenix Open, and he came down the stretch on the back nine, got to an in-game price of minus 200, and I was feeling pretty good. But then, Sahith Theegala, Nick Taylor, these guys came charging back, and Taylor ended up winning it. And you see what he did in Houston a couple weeks ago, trying to catch Stephen Yeager. He misses a 5-foot putt on the final hole to miss out on a playoff. So, I mean, that type of thing happens, and all of a sudden your yes bet goes awry. And do you really want to, shave it that close with a no bet to the tune of minus
Mhm.
655? So, it would just be a stay away for me because I don't feel confident enough about either side, and especially laying that type of price on a no.
Sure. Fair enough. Makes sense. And look, you're right. I mean, the people who are betting the no and making a profit off of that in the long run are the people who have the capital to do that consistently and barring, a loss are able to recover from it. So that's why it's usually not your average Joe type of bettors who are making those wagers. But it's certainly interesting to see that market get more prominent in Circus Sportsbook, definitely trying to lead the way in doing that for a lot of
I'll,
these
t-
golf
I'll
tournaments
tell
and
you
other
what.
championships.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You have to love the fact that they even offer you that option. And I don't blame those guys that, do this for a living and bet really big dollars
Hmm.
for diving into those markets at all. It's similar to the make the cut market, yes or no. And
Right.
I think there's some advantages there, whether you're betting on the yes on an underdog or a no. I mean, there's some good bets to be made there too. But you're exactly right. Those markets take a little bit more capital to get involved in, and sometimes they're even better bets that you can make in those markets. So I certainly wouldn't shy away from them, but you got to come with your lunch pail and a sack of money.
No doubt about it. Well, Brady, last question I got for you before we get to your plays for the tournament. And this is a little bit harder to say, I suppose, this point out, but if maybe you have any general thoughts on this, meaning after day one, whether it's day two, day three, do you have any live betting strategies that you look to implement? And of course, what I'm getting to, yes, it's tough to say now because we don't know what the board's going to look like, but are there any kind of general practices you abide by year after year when it comes to live betting at Augusta?
Well, not just Augusta, but absolutely. And you mentioned at the top that I write for Golf Bet. That's a the betting space for the PGA Tour. And for a couple seasons now, they've had me write an article kind of at the midway point or even on a Saturday before the final day. I have done it more occasionally this year, but was doing it week in and week out last year. And it taught me a lot about the in-game perspective in betting these guys after a round or two has been played. I One thing I do not like to do is make a bet unless I see something that's really jumps off the page. I typically don't make a bet after just one round because it's only one round. I want to see a couple days worth of action and where we can kind of see maybe some trends or some patterns develop before I'm going to get involved. So first of all, I'll let 36 holes play out before I get involved for the most part. But then, other than price, I'm looking at guys that are maybe either just surviving by doing one thing really well, or guys conversely that are doing everything really well and could get only better. So, like, I remember last year. Last year, I bet John Rahm in game at the halfway point. I think I got plus 250, short price, but I thought it was still a very good price and a good bet. It turned out to be a good bet. And the reason I did it and what I'm talking about here is because everything had fallen perfectly into place for Brooks Koepka. If you remember last year's Masters, we had a lot of weather delays.
Mhm.
There was a lot of interruptions, and Rahm was kind of on the bad end of that stuff. And Kepka, the way his tee times were situated and the way the weather panned out, he just happened to fall right into the right slots and get every break. And he was playing very, very well. He was doing everything perfectly. Everything was going swimmingly for Brooks Koepka. And then, I felt like, wait, this can't continue on. And we've got more weather, I'm seeing here, and there's going to be a hiccup eventually. And so I didn't want to continue to ride the wave with Brooks Koepka, just having everything being so perfect in place through 36 holes. And I think you'll also see what I was talking about, where you might have a guy. I remember there was a guy early, I think it was at the Cognizant Classic, the old Honda Classic earlier this year. Bud Colley was in the lead after 36 holes. He was missing like 50% of the fairways. He wasn't that good with his irons, but his putting was absolutely outstanding. And putting is the most volatile statistic there is.
Mhm.
Putting can go cold in a minute. It can get hot in a minute. I mean, it can turn direction in 9 holes, in 18 holes, whatever. So I was like, if this guy's not hitting his driver well and he's not hitting his irons well and he's living by the putter right now, that's not sustainable. So that's another situation I think you look for. And then finally, I think you look for a guy that maybe after the first 2 days he's put together a couple of 69s or a 69 and a 68 or a 7, some, not like where he's shot 63 and then 70, something not too at both ends of the spectrum, if you will. But I look for a guy that's been steady. And let's say the putter, let's say for strokes gained putting, he ranks like 25th in the field, not first, not second, but kind of pretty good, like 30th, like he's putting well, but he's not off the charts, because I don't want to see anything too far in one direction. Because as you know, Danny, in any sports handicapping, things are likely to come back towards the mean. And so, if you've got a guy, let's say a Russell Henley, and he's sitting there in 12th place and he's doing everything pretty well and he's kind of flying under the radar and he doesn't have anything that looks like an outlier, that's another guy that I might gravitate towards in an in-game market.
right, great advice, Brady. Before we get you out of here, let's finally get to your best bets for the Masters, some of your favorite outrights or some of your favorite head to head matchups. What do you got that you're looking forward to wagering and hopefully cashing in on, my friend?
Well, I'll give you the whole enchilada. And I started with Xander Schauffele, pretty short shot. And Danny, this is, obviously not a typical golf tournament, but it's also not typical in the sense that it's pretty chalky. You've got debutantes here. You've got former champions like Fred Couples who are in their 60s. You've got, amateurs in this field. There's only 89 guys in the field. And by the time you whittle it down to who truly has a chance to win it, you might come up with 30 guys. So this tournament has a history of being very chalky. So Xander Schauffele, I got at 18-1. I've seen him as low as 12. I mentioned earlier, you could argue he's a top 3 player in the world. He's got 6 top 10 finishes already this season. He's just been magical. And the knock against him is he can't finish. Well, one of these days he's probably going to, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week. I just had to have him on my card somehow because he's too good. He's got too good a history here. The course history at Augusta, Danny, is stronger than any other property, any other golf course, any other tournament that these guys play. That's why you see Tiger Woods win in 2019. That's why you see Phil Mickelson finish second last year out of nowhere. That's why you see Fred Couples make the cut last year at 63 years old. Guys show up at Augusta that have been doing it here for years, and they continue to play well here year after year. And Schauffele has played well here himself. He's got a runner-up finish. He's got multiple top 10s. So I played him for an outright as well as a top 10 finish. And then I went to Jordan Spieth. He's played here 10 times. He's finished top 5 6 times, including a win. The guy just has another gear, I think, when he steps on the grounds of this golf course. And he showed me some really good signs last week. I mean, the one thing that typically hinders Jordan Spieth is driving accuracy. And last week in Texas, he was 15th in the field for driving accuracy. So I think his game is ready to fire once again. Will Zalatoris, I took a stab at. I got him at 28-1, which a while ago was a great number. Now it's a lousy number. These are like Super Bowl futures where they're on the board for months upon months, and you think you got something good, and then April rolls around and it's no longer a good number. But that doesn't take away from what I think his chances are. He's finished second here on debut and was 6th in his second try here. He has a runner-up finish at Riviera this year, a 4th at Bay Hill. The guy does everything you need around this golf course and has shown that in the past. And I think he's got a heck of a shot once again. Hideki Matsuyama, your winner at the Genesis Invitational, maybe the hottest player in the world right now. I got him at 29, which happens to be a good number as we speak currently. He's coming off of 4 finishes that went 1st, 12th, 6th, and 7th. And oh, by the way, he's a former winner here. So this guy's got everything going for him right now. And then a couple of longer shots or one shorter shot I missed here, and a live player, Joaquin Niemann, who like Matsuyama might also be the hottest player in the world. He's got 2 wins on the live circuit this year, plus a win at the Australian Open. And what I really like about Niemann are a couple of things. First of all, the correlated courses, a couple of them are Riviera Country Club and Kapalua in Maui, where they play the Sentry. Niemann in 2022, when he was still a PGA member, won at Riviera, won the Genesis Invitational. That same year, he lost in a playoff at Kapalua and also has a 5th place finish at Kapalua. Then you look at what he's done at Augusta. He's played here 4 times, and every time it's been progressively better. Finished 69th, finished 40th, finished 35th, and last year he was 16th. He just keeps getting better, and he's red hot this season. He's got all the tools, the long game, the short game, and everything in between. He is on my card for sure as well. I got him at 31-1. And then I played 2 longer shots in Tony Finau and Shane Lowry. I mentioned the top 10, Danny, on Xander Schauffele. All of these other guys, not only the outright, but I've also played them top 20. Finau, 2 10th place finishes here, a 5th place finish, lost in a playoff at Riviera, has a win and a runner-up a couple weeks ago at Memorial Park, another correlated course for me. He's absolutely striping the irons right now. He hits it long. The question mark is the putter. He's had a bad putting year this season, and he's never been a great putter. He putted really well in 2023. It's been off this year. But if he can just be average putting, I think the rest of the game carries him to at least a top 10 finish and possibly a magical win. And Shane Lowry, again, has all the tools off the tee, iron play, magical short game. He's a big game hunter. He plays big, tough golf courses well. He plays tough golf tournaments well. Also, he's finished top 25 here in 4 straight trips to Augusta National. So that rounds out the card there as far as the outrights and the finish positions. And then in the head-to-head matchups, I took Jordan Spieth at minus 125 over Brooks Koepka. I've seen that price get more expensive on Spieth. Joaquin Niemann at minus 120 over Wyndham Clark. I've seen that price get more expensive. And then Tony Finau at minus 125 over Cameron Young. And I've actually seen that price stay about the same. So certainly some opportunities there in the head-to-head matchup market. Like I say, a couple of those have gotten a little pricier, but find out what your threshold is and go from there.
At Las Vegas Golfers, where you can follow Brady on Twitter for more. If you want to get the full rundown, he's tweeted it out, but you can check it at golf.com. And again, he gives the full synopsis like he's done so eloquently here on the podcast. And like he said as well, he'll be giving you an in-game kind of mid-weekend update on maybe some plays he'll look forward to when we get to that halfway point of the Masters. But Brady, I'll always be tailing you when it comes to golf and also when it comes to football. As I mentioned earlier, you crush it in that every single season and do just as good, if not better, when it comes to the links. So without a doubt, rooting for you. Very much appreciate the time and best of luck with all those plays at Augusta, my friend.
Hey, let's have ourselves a great and a profitable Augusta National Masters, my friend.
And there you have it, Brady Kannon dishing out some of his top plays at Augusta National Golf Club for the 88th edition of the Masters. Truly a pleasure to talk golf betting with Brady. I'm checking out his articles every single weekend when I'm betting the links, and it's been profitable this year. I've made some cash from it. Hopefully we can all do the same for this upcoming weekend for the biggest tournament of the year. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tout my own plays on the Masters because, look, I'm not someone who claims to be a golf bettor or a golf analyst on a frequent basis. So I'm absolutely going to be following Brady. I will say that I always do an obligatory bet on Jordan Spieth. He's someone that I am betting every single year to replicate his success that he's had in the past at Augusta. So without a doubt, he's going to be someone I make a play on. I love Will Zalatoris. I know Brady has a flyer on him. I'm definitely tailing with Will. He's been great. He's just struggled to finish in the big tournament. So hopefully he can do that here. Joaquin Niemann over at Live. He has been, again, as Brady mentioned, one of the hottest golfers in the world. Hard not to take a stab at Niemann. And yeah, then I'll be tailing the rest of Brady's efforts as well. Let me know if you got any other plays that you would suggest for the Masters at Danny Burke 5, where you can follow on Twitter. Make sure you follow along on Burke's Beat for plenty more baseball content, plenty more NBA content. Playoffs coming soon, baby. Can't wait. And if you subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, always appreciated, and it helps you get notified when new episodes are released. And again, make sure you check out the Rhythm Sports Betting app, RITHMM, and check out the link in the description of this podcast and on the website, burkspeed.com. Enjoy the round of golf. Best of luck with your plays. We will talk again soon. Stay safe out there and take care, ladies and gentlemen.